Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of What the Insurance? This is episode 7, and this week we will be talking about open enrollment. There's a lot of good information in this video. I want to help you guys understand how to get enrolled in your plans, how to understand waiting periods, eligibility, qualifying events, and things like that. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So open enrollment is a period in time where you are allowed to go in and make plan changes to your benefits. It's usually the first of the year for a lot of companies, although some companies have it in the middle of the year. It just depends on the policy period that your employer offers. So open enrollment usually takes place before the effective date of your plan. So if you have a 1/1 effective date, your open enrollment is going to be usually in December or November. If you have like a 5/1 effective date of your plan, your open enrollment would be maybe in March or April. But it's usually going to be the first within the 30 days to 60 days before your effective date. And that's the time where you can go into technology or fill out a paper form and identify what plans you want to take. If you want to add coverage, if you want to remove coverage, if you want to add dependents, if you want to remove dependents, that's the time for you to do it. Because our benefits are pre-tax, they're called Section 125 benefits. And that means that in order for the employer to be able to take the money out pre-tax for your benefits, like your medical, your dental, and vision, they have to follow certain rules. And those rules dictate that you can only allow changes to the plan during open enrollment unless they have a qualifying event. So we'll get further into that later on in the episode. But I wanted to explain, open enrollment is the time before your effective date where you are allowed to go in and make changes to your benefits. Eligibility is the definition of how you know you are eligible for benefits at your company. A lot of companies have a bunch of different eligibility options. The main one that I see is that you have to be a full-time employee working at least 30 hours per week. However, some companies offer benefits to part-time employees. You have some union benefits. So there's some different things that can play into that. But usually what I see on average is full-time employee working at least 30 hours per week. Benefits usually cover your legal dependents. So like spouse and children, stepchildren, adopted children, would be considered legal dependents and would be covered by your benefits if you choose to include them in your coverage. Or you could just do employee-only coverage. That's up to you. By way of the Affordable Care Act on your medical benefits, you can keep your children covered up to age 26. That is still a law that is in place today. I don't know if it's going to change with the new Trump administration, but right now, with the Affordable Care Act still in place, your children can remain on your medical plan up to age 26. As you get into other benefits, those maximums or age maximums can sometimes vary. Some benefits will allow you to keep your children on until they're 19, unless they're a full-time student. But for medical, for sure, you can keep your children on to age 26. Okay, waiting periods. It's important to know what your waiting period is before you accept a job offer. And it's okay to ask that question when you are considering the job. I wouldn't say in the first interview, but when you know you're getting close to an offer or you have an offer on the table, you want to start inquiring about what their insurance benefits are, what the waiting period is, so you can ensure you don't have a gap in coverage if possible. So what I did, I had an interesting situation. I knew that the waiting period at my new company that I was going to was first of the month following date of hire. That means if I am hired on, let's say, January 5th, then the first of the month following that would be February 1st. And so that would be when my benefits kick in. I also knew that on my previous plan with my previous company, my benefits would go through the end of the month. So strategically, I went ahead and waited until it was after the first of the month before I left the previous company. That way I knew my benefits would at least go through the end of that month. And then I went and enrolled in my new plans once I got to my new job. So I knew my benefits would start the first of the month following that date of hire. So therefore, I didn't have a gap in coverage. Now, you won't always have it that smooth. Some waiting periods are first of the month following 60 days or following 30 days. So it's not always going to be that easy, but it's okay to ask that question. What is the waiting period? How long do I have to wait before my benefits kick in? Because the other option is if you know you're going to have an extended waiting period, like say first of the month following 60 days, you could ask your previous employer to sign you up for COBRA when you leave. So you don't have a gap in coverage. So there are different options just to make sure that you have coverage and that there's no gap. But definitely you want to ask about what is the waiting period. You also should know that some disability plans, depending on the employer, depending on the kind of plan they have, may require you to be employed for a year before you can even use it. So you may enroll at open enrollment, but you may not be able to apply the disability until you've been there for a year. So you want to be careful of that and make sure you ask those questions up front. There are other, like I said, waiting periods to other different plans. We'll talk about that as we get into those kinds of plans, but make sure you inquire about it, and it's okay to ask. So open enrollment, we talked about Section 125. We talked about plans being pre-tax and allowing you to enroll prior to the effective date. You want to make sure, because plans that have post-tax deductions, they don't usually have that requirement. So they usually will allow you to enroll throughout the year, but it's really up to your employer, because for ease of administration, it may be easier for them to just say, hey, you have to enroll in everything during open enrollment period. But post-tax deduction plans, so like your disability, your life, voluntary life, those kinds of plans that the deductions come out after taxes, those are not subjected to the Section 125 rules, and so you could technically enroll throughout the year. But there also may be evidence of insurability. So if you are enrolling in the middle of the year for life or voluntary life and you didn't take it at open enrollment, you may be required to meet evidence of insurability if you're not considered newly eligible for that benefit. We'll talk more about that when we start talking about those kinds of plans, but you want to be careful with trying to enroll in those plans in the middle of the year. People start getting suspicious, wondering, why are you taking life insurance right now if you didn't take it when it was initially offered to you? And that could cause inquiries and make you have to complete evidence of insurability. So just be careful about that. Okay. So I mentioned that if you do not enroll during open enrollment, then you cannot make any changes for the rest of the year. So you have to enroll during open enrollment because of that Section 125 rule. If you have a qualifying event in insurance, we call it qualifying event or qualifying change in status, then that opens up your open enrollment period for 30 days from the date of the event. Okay, I will repeat that. I'm going to back up just a little bit and repeat my other statement as well. Open enrollment means once you have enrolled in your plans and your open enrollment period has ended, you cannot make any changes to your benefits until the next open enrollment period, usually a year, okay? Unless you have a qualifying event or qualifying change in status that will open up your open enrollment period for 30 days. It is your responsibility to notify your human resources department and let them know that you've had a qualifying event. What is a qualifying event? It could be giving birth to a baby or adopting a child. It could be getting married or getting divorced. It could be that someone has aged off your plan, meaning your dependent has turned 26. It could be loss of coverage somewhere else. So maybe you were covered by your spouse and your spouse lost their job, and so now you need to enroll in benefits. Those are just some of the qualifying events. You can always ask human resources what qualifies as, or what constitutes as a qualifying event. But if you have one, you have 30 days. Now, the reason why I want to emphasize that, you'd be surprised how many people I encounter during my open enrollment meetings that say, hey, I had a baby and I waited until I got back from maternity leave, and they said I couldn't get enrolled with my baby. I couldn't enroll my child in my benefits. You have to wait till the next open enrollment period. And honestly, I have to tell them there's nothing I can do. You may want to go to the marketplace and look and see if you can find an insurance plan for your child until you can enroll them during open enrollment period. Okay. So it's very, very, very important. A lot of people equate coming back to work with the time in which they want to get their baby added to the plan. And that is not the time. You should do it right away. You have 30 days from the date of the event. So if you give birth, you have 30 days from the baby's birthday. If you get married, you have 30 days from the date of the date you got married. If you get divorced, you have 30 days from the date you signed the divorce decree. Whatever the date of the event is, you have 30 days from that date to be considered a qualifying event and to go ahead and open your open enrollment period. Otherwise, again, you're locked in for a year until next year's open enrollment period. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about on this subject is plan comparison options. During open enrollment period, your human resources department is required to give you some type of documentation that allows you to understand what plans you have available to you so you can make smart decisions. If they're not giving that to you, it's okay to ask for it. They should have some type of plan comparison or plan summary, usually a benefit guide or a benefit document that shows your contributions. Also, by way of the Affordable Care Act, they are required to give you a summary of benefits and coverage, also known as SBC. You are required to get that from Human Resources. If you don't get one from Human Resources, then that means they are not doing something right. Okay, sorry, I said it. You have to make sure that you ask them for it. They should be offering it to you, but if you don't get it, please make sure you ask them for it, because that's going to be the document that allows you to compare your plans on a uniform platform. The original phrase for that document was called a uniform summary of benefits and coverage. The idea was that every carrier was required to offer this document so that if your spouse had UHC and you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, you could look at a document that looks pretty similar in nature and compare the plans and make smart decisions. That was a rule of the Affordable Care Act. So you should be getting a summary of benefits and coverage, or SBC, from your Human Resources Department, or some type of plan comparison document to help you make decisions on what plans you want to be in. Okay, that's my time today. I hope this has been helpful and that you've learned some things about open enrollment. Again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out and ask me, or always do not ever be afraid to talk to your Human Resources Department. Please, please, please like and share these videos so everyone can get the word. Also, if you don't have Instagram, don't have Facebook, you can access these archive videos on YouTube. So tell your family, tell your friends, they can access the videos. My YouTube link is in the description below. Like and subscribe to my YouTube page. Follow me on Instagram if you have Instagram at _the_insurance. I post my archive videos to my IGTV channel, as well as some other interesting content on that page as well. So follow me on Instagram. All right, join me next week. Next week, we'll be talking about urgent medical options. So that's going to be your emergency room, your urgent care, virtual visits, telemedicine, things like that. So we'll talk a lot about that next week. Join me. Hope to see you there. Have a great rest of your week.